terms of what Pendred's going to bring to the table, I mean, he's going to have all of the crowd on him. He's coming in off the back of a defeat. There's a little bit of pressure on him, perhaps. How are you planning on sort of nullifying that crowd and sort of silencing them early on in the fight?
Just bringing my game, Technically, I believe I'm levels above Pendred, The reason I think Pendred's so good is because he's delusional. I think his belief is incredible, and he just keeps going. I think technically he's I'm out of his league, to be honest.
I assume then, Tom, there's you've never gone the distance, and I'm not sure you've been out of the first round. You see it going the same way?
I'm gonna get ready for free range. Pendred's a tough guy and he keeps going, but if the finish is there, I'll take it.
Last fight, obviously you look at your CV. It's been a lot of grappling. Last fight, the lead hook and the straight right, and it was beautiful for you. Obviously, Cathal strengths would be in the grappling department. Can you imagine just possibly just trying to box him?
Yeah, definitely. But as I say, I think I'm better everywhere. So if he goes to the ground, I'll beat him on the ground, and on the feet. I train with some of the best boxers in the world, so my boxing is superior on that. I still haven't really had a chance to show that, and last fight I got to show a little bit of my boxing.
Could you speak on Joe, about what happened? Do you know exactly, were you there?
I was actually sparring at the time, he got caught with a shot. We always we're always sparring 1 week out from the fight as normal, and it happens, it's a contact sport.
Can you confirm who Joe was actually sparring with at the time? Was it yourself?
I can't confirm that, and no, it wasn't myself.
How's he been feeling this morning, Tom? He's obviously a bit deflated, yeah,
Joe? Yeah, he's gutted, and he didn't pull out the fight. Obviously, the UFC pulled him out, and he's gutted. This was his event. He was main event, and I see a lot of people kicking a man while he's down, and I don't like that.
Bringing the questions back to yourself, how do you see the fight actually going on Saturday, and have you got a prediction for us?
I see myself winning. I believe I will get the finish, but I'm ready for anything.
You said you weren't happy with your debut performance, even though you got a first round stoppage. What was it about that performance that you weren't happy with, given how successful it was on the night?
I set a very high standard for myself. I believe I'm going to go all the way in this sport, and I felt like I should have been more dominant. I was against a good fighter. The guy that I fought last fight, he fought last week, and he looked incredible. So, it just goes to show that I fought a good guy, but I took him out in the first round in his hometown.
You want to stay active this year, Tom? I mean, obviously, the other day, if you win, say Saturday, momentum. Do you want to get on a big card before the end of the year?
I'm probably looking at maybe the London card. I'd like to put on a good performance and get on the main card in London.
If this fight goes the distance, Tom, we've seen Cathal win a lot of close decisions in the past, and obviously being in his hometown, would be any concern on your part that if it's close, that the hometown advantage might tip it in his favour?
Oh, definitely. There'll be stuff like I could land a clean shot, there'll be no noise from the fans, and he could miss or glance, and there'll be a lot of noise, stuff like that. But I can see myself being very dominant in this, and it shouldn't even be close.
Tom, you and Cathal, you might have met in the past, but your paths didn't cross.
Yeah.
Now that it has happened, is that a source of satisfaction for you?
Definitely. I respect Cathal as a fighter. I think he's got a great record, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he's a very tough fighter, and it's going to be a great win for me on Saturday.
And he's spoken about he thinks the crowd might be an issue for you. You're prepared for that crowd?
Yeah, the crowd's not going to bother me. I'm going to go in there and do what I do in training, and my reactions are going to be the same as in training, so it's not going to change anything. I'm going to be composed, and I'm going to get the win.
Do you think it will make a bigger impression on UFC because of the hometown crowd Cathal going to have? Obviously, there's going to be a big reception for him if it was like last year. Do you think that will make it even more important for you to get the win, and it will make the win bigger for you if you do come away with it?
He's going to make the win more impressive, and to be honest, that's why I wanted to fight with Cathal, because I think he's a big name. He has a big following, and it's going to be a chance for me to get my name out there, because I believe I'm unknown still in MMA, really.
And a lot of people have obviously brought up Cathal's striking. People seem to think he's very slow. As a guy who fights himself, do you look at that? Do you see obviously big gaps there when you see his striking?
I see a lot of gaps, but MMA, everyone, it's still dangerous. Small gloves, and everyone's got a puncher's chance, but I do see a lot of gaps.
The UFC seems to be getting a lot more ruthless with cutting guys over the last week or so, Tom. And anybody who's coming off a loss seems to be in a bit of trouble. Obviously, that doesn't apply to you, but
Yeah.
do you think Cathal might be fighting for his career here?
I'm not sure. You know, he has a big following, so that might help him. And you know, he's got a good record in the UFC. He's 4-1. His fights haven't been the most exciting, but you know, I can't really say much to that. Yeah.
Where do you think he's most dangerous, Tom?
I'd definitely say his clinch game and his strength and his will to win is his strongest point and where he's most dangerous. Yeah.
There's a lot of people seem to be waiting for a big UK fighter to kind of break through and be like, you know, the main fighter from the UK, especially looking at this card now in February. Like, do you feel like this is your time to kind of grab that kind of pedestal and put yourself out there?
Definitely, and I feel like I'm at a good camp. I feel I'm doing everything right to get there, and you know, I feel like it's my time.
So I could just ask about Joe again, Tom. When he obviously sustained the blow on Saturday, was he aware at the time that it was a concussive blow, or did it come as a surprise when he got here and failed the medical?
He was aware. Yeah, the UFC were told that day, and you know, he had to undergo some tests.
So he was concerned coming over that that might be the case. Yeah. Okay.
And was it touch and go all throughout this week as to whether he'd be fighting? Like, I mean, was it last night that was it? Like, it was confirmed last night that was the first you heard of it? Yeah. Okay.
And has Faraz still travelled over?
Yeah, Faraz has probably just arrived, so Faraz will be there. He'll be cornering me. Yeah.